If you want to know exactly why I advocate for what I advocate here, which is generally Bitcoin, replacing the money, fix the world, and going to a monetary system that's run by code, immutable code, not by men that are infallible. God love them all, but they're infallible. This is why. This is an incredible article. I'm going to read it all to you because it's just about a handful of paragraphs, less than a 2-minute read. Yahoo News, Wells Fargo to pay $3.7 billion over consumer law violations. Here we go again. This is not an old article. This just came out today. And mind you, you'd say, well, I thought a year ago or so that they were paying billions again because of defrauding their customers, opening up fake accounts and things like that, whatever the hell they were doing. Yes, that was what they were doing. Well, here we are again. Consumer banking giant Wells Fargo agreed to pay almost $4 billion to settle charges that it harmed customers by charging illegal fees and interest on auto loans and mortgages, as well as incorrectly applying overdraft fees against savings accounts and checking accounts. Wells Fargo was ordered to pay $2 billion, repay the $2 billion back to consumers that they had defrauded them. And the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, enacted a $1.7 billion penalty against the bank. So that is the largest fine ever leveled against a bank by the CFPB. And they've spent years, as they say, trying to rehabilitate, right? But regulators made it clear they still have ways to go. You think? But simply, Wells Fargo is a corporate recidivist that puts 1 out of 3 Americans at risk for potential harm. Are you kidding me? And people just go along with this. They just keep going. We're just going to keep going with this. Just keep putting my money in the bank there. Just my life, energy, time, and energy. I'm going to put this with them. What do you have to say about this, Warren Buffett? This is one of his poster children, right? I believe he still owes him. I don't think he's sold out of this position. I believe he still owes a huge chunk. This is one of his big positions. It's just mind-blowing. And then this guy's going to sit here and talk bad about Bitcoin, right? It's rat poison. Yeah, it's rat poison to Wells Fargo. Bitcoin literally sucks the life force out of these banks that, mind you, are running Ponzi schemes. They are running crypto exchanges like Sam Bankman-Fried. The dollar and these banks are built on a house of cards. They have nothing in them. There's no gold in them. If you went to the bank right now and asked to get $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 out, hence, or heaven forbid, any more, they would look at you cross-eyed and say, did you make an appointment? Just go try it. Even if you don't have $10,000, it doesn't matter. You can go do it. Just go do it and just say, hey, I'm here to get $10,000 out. Don't even say anything and just see what happens. They will pretty much go on block lockdown because they have nothing. In 2020, we went to a zero reserve requirement, meaning there didn't have to be any of the actual cash, which isn't even the money. That's just banknotes. There didn't have to be any paper in the bank for you. None of your cash had to be there. And again, remember, the cash is not even money. People make this argument that, well, it is money because, it's there at the barrel of a gun. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, guess what? People get martyred all the time. So just because you have a barrel of a gun at someone's head doesn't mean, that works. That doesn't make it money. That doesn't make it, more valuable because someone's, threatening you with the barrel of a gun. Incentives are how capitalism works and free markets work. Incentive-based, deflationary monies like Bitcoin, where people go to it willingly. When you have a currency in Marxism and socialism, communism, it's based on the barrel of a gun. It's forcing someone to pay off the infallible nature and the consequences of the people at the top inflating and debasing the currency away. That's the difference between the two systems. Again, please like and subscribe to this channel if you guys like what we're doing here and what we're talking about and trying to spread truth and reality and what's going on. I had someone just comment again in one of the other videos about, hey, I'm starting to get what you're saying here with these videos, but what is the answer? At the end of the day, the answer, I believe, is Bitcoin. That's what I believe is going to be the Bitcoin, because just taking into account all of the trends of technology, looking at generations, demographics, and what future kids are going to want. Are they going to be using gold or fiat, paper dollars? No, of course. And they're going to be using their phones. That's all people do anyway, right? So they're going to be looking at Bitcoin, and Bitcoin fixes many of these problems. It doesn't fix all, but there's a saying, Bitcoin fixes this. It brings us to a deflationary money supply where government can't go sit out here. And I know George Gammon talks about the M2 supply and the fractional banking, all these things. Well, great. There's going to be people that create more banknotes on top of what's going on on Bitcoin. But Bitcoin, the ledger, the transparent ledger, is going to give us all a window into what's truly going on. And people will have checks and balances at their disposal and a global asset they can use to send wealth back and forth and to keep their governments in check and their banks in check. And it's going to be a much more competitive environment where you're going to have actual interest rates where people can go put their money in a bank if they're willing to go put their money in a bank still. I don't know why you would, because you can become your own bank and not get charged any fees, not get defrauded, and have fake bank accounts and credit scores and all this garbage that these people pull on you. And I just laugh. I'm sorry. It's just funny that it's 2022 and people still think the banks, after hundreds of years, after all the scams they've pulled, that we're still dealing with this. Wells Fargo, again, back to this. Please like and subscribe if you're liking this. Please share with somebody that you think might need to hear this, or that you've been arguing with, or that you think they might like this, right? So just please like and subscribe to the channel, and put your comments in here what you think. Maybe any things you've seen with banks, and any incidents you've had with them, any experiences you've had. So again, Wells Fargo has been sanctioned repeatedly by the U.S. regulators. Or first off, the violations impacted more than 16 million customers. Again, just this time alone. In addition to improperly charging auto loan customers with fees and interest, the bank wrongfully repossessed vehicles in some cases. Can you imagine what people had to deal with their cars being ripped out of their hands? The bank also improperly denied thousands of mortgage loan modifications for homeowners. How many people lost homes over the last how many years? Literally had they couldn't get a refinance. Something happened because Wells Fargo improperly denied them. How many people lost their home because of that? So at the end of the day, what are we doing? Why are we putting this in someone else's hands? Why are we putting all of our time and energy, which is money, we put our time and energy and we take something else as a trade for that, which is money. So it's supposed to be, and it's supposed to hold perfectly that time and energy. Fiat currencies don't do that because it's leaking out the side through inflation, that container we talk about all the time. And then we go put it in a bank, that currency, so that we compound the problem. We accept as a trade a currency that loses its time and energy, and then we go put it in a bank with someone else, another custodian, legally giving them the right to do whatever they want with it, and say, you know what, you deal with it. You take care of it. And then we wonder why things happen. Wells Fargo has been sanctioned repeatedly by U.S. regulators for violations of consumer protection laws going back to 2016, when employees were found to have opened millions of accounts illegally in order to meet unrealistic sales goals. Expanding currency supply, I'm not sure why we had to keep opening new accounts for sales goals. I mean, you guys were going to make billions of dollars anyway. Just mind-blowing. This is fiat brain. This is peak fiat clown world. Peak fiat legacy system, inflationary monetary system. This is what happens. Lenin, Stalin, all the greatest communists of our time and before us talked about this so much. For capitalism to fail and free markets to fail, you have to debauch the currency. You have to destroy the currency. And we're living this nightmare. We're going through this right now. Hence why so many people in the United States and in the Western world think socialism and communism is a great idea again. I mean, these ideas we literally just beat a few decades ago and showed they didn't work and have killed thousands, hundred million people. We now have people and young people all over, all generations, saying this is a great idea. Let's go back to communism and Marxism. Mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. Wells paid a $1 billion penalty in 2018 for widespread consumer law violations, the largest against a bank for such violations at the time. So they're breaking their own records. Congrats. Talk about sales goals, Wells Fargo. You're breaking your own fines, your record fines. The bank has signaled to its investors that it anticipated additional fines and penalties from regulators aside $2 billion in the third quarter for that reason. Wow. Smart on you. Wells remains under a Federal Reserve order forbidding the bank from growing any larger until the Fed deems its problems are resolved. Well, good luck with that. That order, originally enacted in 2018, was expected to last only a year or two. CEO said in a prepared statement Tuesday that the agreement with the CFPB is an effort to transform operating practices at Wells Fargo and put these issues behind us, like it happened 30 years ago, 50, 100 years ago. While Wells Fargo tried to frame the argument with CFPB as a resolution of established bad behavior, CFPB officials said some of the violations cited in Tuesday's order took place this year. They took place this year, so they're still doing it. So the regulator said this should not be seen as Wells Fargo has moved past its problems because they're still doing it. And they're going to keep doing it because they make $5 billion, $3 billion, $10 billion, and then they get fined $2 billion every 4 years, 5 years, whatever. Who cares? We're defrauding our customers, doing whatever we want. Doesn't happen in Bitcoin, guys. This doesn't happen in Bitcoin. Well, it went down 70% this year. Yeah, that's because it's a new asset class still. It only has $350 billion in market cap. Just wait until it's 30 trillion in market cap or 300 trillion in market cap. This is not financial advice, this is freedom advice. But go do the homework. Please go do the homework. I have hundreds of videos here that we've done going over this, going over the properties of Bitcoin, the utility of Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin, the charts of Bitcoin. And there's thousands of other people. Matthew Crater, Michael Saylor talks about it, but Matthew Crater is probably one of the best educators in the space. BTC sessions, there's so many guys out there doing this, talking about Bitcoin, Nico and Opti and Simply Bitcoin. So many videos talking about Bitcoin and what it's going to do in the coming years. You know, in 2010, 11, you know, you could say, Bitcoin, we'll see. You know, could go to zero. Maybe 2012, 13, like, it might go to zero still. There's still not, there's only, a couple dozen miners, a couple hundred miners, a couple thousand, there's a chance still. Guys, we're at tens of thousands of miners, tens of thousands of nodes, millions of holders of Bitcoin. We have banks, we have insurance companies all buying into Bitcoin, BlackRock, asset managers. We have nation states buying Bitcoin. At this point, if you don't see the writing on the wall, I don't know what to say. And they're preparing for massive runs up as each halving goes by in 2024, 2028. Is the halving is the amount of Bitcoin that's mined into existence every 10 minutes. That gets halved every 4 years. That amount gets halved, that block reward. So we don't have to put up with this. We do not have to do this anymore. This is something we now have the ability to step out from aside from this. And in my thing, again, quickly, I was a big educator on financial literacy for the last 10 years and running a real estate organization and teaching people about sound money. And I was a gold and silver guy. So people, come at me with so many objections, and Bitcoiners get all these objections of like, well, what about gold and silver? Or well, the price is down. I thought it was this. And what about the energy? Like 65% of all Bitcoin mining is done with renewable sources. And it still only uses 0.5% of the world's energy. 0.5%. And yet 5 years ago, from the World Economic Forum themselves, they said it was going to use all the world's energy by 2020. So these people, the unproductive class, keep getting it not only wrong, but they are so wrong that it hurts the brain to even think about. So please start listening and doing your own homework. Start listening to people that are actually in the space, number one, that are actually doing the things that you want to be doing, being sovereign, having wealth, being outside the system, being independent, being resilient, using the network, helping humanity, banking the unbanked, using renewables. Bitcoin's always doing all these things. The amount of people I've seen their lives have changed by being on Bitcoin, especially people around the world in emerging markets, being untrapped from their governments, from collapsing currencies, and it's only going to increase. It's unbelievable. This is a stark reminder as to what's going on and what Bitcoin was discovered for, what Satoshi Nakamoto discovered Bitcoin for. So please, let's do our homework. Let's continue educating ourselves because we have a bright orange future ahead of us. If you like this, please like and subscribe to the channel. Please share it with someone else that you think could get something out of this. And I appreciate your time. It's the most important asset we have. Besides Bitcoin, the only finite things we have, Bitcoin and time is Bitcoin. Appreciate you. We'll see you on the next one.